Morning, YouTube. It's Tuesday. Yes, it's Tuesday. And I am feeling great today. Yesterday, as the first day without weed and also without like scrounging for weed and resin hitting the pipe and getting like marginally stoned, went pretty well. Obviously, I had some cravings all day long, but like the knowledge that I simply do not have weed was enough to prevent me from going and seeking out getting stoned anyway, which is such a waste of time. Like, I spend all this time like resin hitting the pipe or like just painstakingly chipping scraps of weed out of the grinder to like cobble together a bowl, and like it gets me 20% stoned, and I get like none of what I actually want out of getting stoned, and like I still have the munchies. It's so stupid. It's such a waste of time. But that's been like a common activity for me over the last like month, I guess. Anyway, I didn't do that, and I was able to not do that fairly easily for whatever reason. Sometimes it's harder than others, but day one this time went smoothly. So now I'm on day two, and like I definitely still want to smoke a little bit, but I'm at a point where I'm starting to reap the rewards of sobriety. It's very quick for me. I stop smoking weed, and like by day two, I'm usually good. By day three, I'm usually great. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be thanking myself a lot. What invariably winds up happening, I shouldn't say invariably, because that means like inevitably. It means there's no way to change this. What has in the past happened every single time, other than one time that like I wasn't smoking weed for a purpose and then I started again for a new purpose, but that's completely beside the point and not even worth mentioning. I get to like 3 or 4 weeks usually, and I'm like, okay, now I'm not a stoner anymore, so I can start smoking weed again. And like it starts off smooth, you know, like I'm just hitting the bong like after everyone goes to sleep, even after I've brushed my teeth sometimes, which is how I prevent myself from munching out. You know, hit the bong and like I hang out for 25 minutes and then I go to sleep. Like I don't have time to get the munchies and go crazy, which is again the biggest like detriment to smoking for me, is just getting the munchies. I'm trying to get a tight, like nice looking body by the summertime, and summer bodies are made in the winter, and it's 20 degrees out, so I think it's time to get moving. Anyway, yeah, what happens is after 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, I can smoke again now that I'm not like in the throes of a cannabis habit. And it starts out slow, but a few weeks later, like I've smoked every single day, and eventually I'm smoking in the morning before the gym. And once that happens, it's just fucking done, because it's nice to smoke before the gym, but it sets me up for failure for the entire day. Because once I've smoked in the day, like that's it. Like now, when that wears off, I'm not going to feel as good as I would have felt if I just hadn't smoked. Like now I am post cannabis high, like tired and groggy and like kind of disinterested in things, maybe a little bit irritable. And I feel like I need to smoke again. And so I do. And then just, the cycle and the cycle and the cycle. And like at my worst, that cycle includes binge eating in between like the smoking sessions. It just gets bad quickly. So right now we're at a good phase. Is it gonna last? I have no clue. Because the thing is, like, we'll see how I feel tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Right now, still, I do look forward to sitting around smoking joints with my siblings Thanksgiving weekend. So anyway, all that aside, I do feel good today. I feel like very high energy. Granted, the pre-workout I took before the gym is still in the veins, so that has something to do with it. But like I just feel like I have a lot of I'm motivated to do things. I'm enjoying writing down the things that I feel like I need to do. Now, whether those things get done or not is a different story, because there's not enough hours in the day to do all of the things that I need to do and incorporate all of the things that I want to make regular habits of, like this and like playing the piano. And watching my son. There's just not enough. But having said that, hopefully I'll be able to knock a few things off of my like master to-do list today, in preparation for Thanksgiving, especially because we are going to have some people over and it's going to be fun. But I like to have a clean house for that. There is some stuff we need to do in the house that like we need to hire a contractor for. lots of stuff. When we first moved in, this house was a complete fucking like disaster area, both from an aesthetic and design perspective and from a like maintenance and cleanliness perspective. And we've done a lot of work to get it to where it is now, like the wallpaper that you guys see over here. I put up wallpaper. I love wallpaper. Every room we made a lot of aesthetic changes to, and like some foundational changes. Like I learned to put in hardwood floors. Like I'm pretty good at that now. We also ripped off a ton of molding, and I'm not good at cutting and putting up molding. And I also don't have the tools to do it anymore. Like we had a bunch of borrowed tools that have since been reclaimed by their rightful owners. That's a tangent, I guess. I can still appreciate having a clean house even if a couple doors are missing their molding, and I should not let that get in the way of me being productive. Thanksgiving, what are our plans, you ask? It's actually going to be probably the smallest Thanksgiving that we've had in a number of years. Last year at Thanksgiving, I do not remember who was there. Like, I know that our like core group was there. My two sisters, my brother, my mom, my sister's respective significant others. But we usually have a couple like extra guests, a couple cousins, maybe like a Thanksgiving orphan that we've taken under our wing or something like that. And I do not remember. And that's because last year my son was 2 weeks old when we had Thanksgiving. And like, it was just a whole fucking thing. We were like deep in the like infancy blur of life that happens when you have a newborn child. And I remember that the food wasn't as good as I wanted it to be last year, actually. That was my key takeaway. I remember sitting down and eating and being like, this is fine, but it could have been a lot better. Like the stuffing I made was not great. And I usually make pretty good stuffing. So this year we're going to focus a little bit more. My goal every year is to make it like the easiest Thanksgiving for me possible. You know, like I want to like do as much prep and then as much mise en place and then as much like cleaning as I work as I can so that I can enjoy myself as much as possible. Now, to clarify, me enjoying myself doesn't mean me not cooking. It just means me cooking but not feeling stressed and overwhelmed. Like with all of my family here, and anyone, like at a party, at like most situations, unless it's like a big party with many, many circles of people and I'm like heavily drinking, I would prefer to be doing something than like going from social circle to like conversation circle to conversation circle. I just like, I get self-conscious and awkward. Excuse me. And I start thinking too much at like in parties or group social situations. But it helps me quite a bit if I have something to do. And that is like, we've hosted Thanksgiving. I have hosted Thanksgiving at whatever my house is, probably for the last like 8 years, actually, now that I think about it. And for me, it is cooking and drinking and hanging out. The trifecta of those three is what makes it fun. It's not the eating or the sitting down. I don't really love that. That's good. Don't get me wrong. But what I love is being in the kitchen, it's smelling great, having all of this stuff around me, and just catching a light, casual, nice daytime buzz as I'm working. That is just fucking like peak for me. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to Thanksgiving for this reason. Anyway, it's going to be a small group. It's probably going to be the smallest group that we've ever had for Thanksgiving, now that I'm thinking about it. We have no Thanksgiving orphans coming. One of my sisters broke up with her significant other who was here last year. It's going to be a very small crowd this year, but it'll be fine. The people who need to be there will be there. I'm very close with all of my siblings, which is super nice. I remember when I was a kid, I would think about this a lot because my parents were not close with their siblings. My dad had like a large age gap between him and his two older brothers, but they were like, you know, close enough in their younger years. I think for whatever reason, my dad was a lot like older when he had me. He was like 50 years old. For whatever reason, he and his brothers weren't super close. They weren't as close as they had been earlier in their life when he had his children. Don't really know why. Don't really know what happened. I'd have to talk to my Italian family about it. But because my dad was never super close with them, I'm not either, although I have taken efforts to carve some inroads with some individuals over there, and that's been pretty successful. Anyway, and my mom and her siblings, whoa, boy, they hate each other. They all hate each other. There's 6 of them in total, and it is just a fucking cataclysm of dysfunction anytime two of them mostly need to interact with one another. So I remember as a kid thinking, like, is this just what happens? Like, you grow up and you don't want to be around your siblings anymore. Now, granted, when I was a kid, I was a real piece of shit. And I also did not like my siblings very much, which, like, you don't, I guess, when you're a kid, you know, like, who really loves their siblings? I certainly didn't. But I didn't think I'd hate them as an adult. And what's wound up happening is that I love them as an adult. Like, for whatever reason, they are my favorite people to hang out with. Like, I am never happier than when I'm just chilling and socializing with my sisters and my brother. Never happier. It's the, like, peak time for me. There's not a friend that I would rather spend time with than my siblings. Isn't it weird how that turns out? Like, and I think they feel the same way. I mean, they seem to really love hanging out with me and us. And I think a lot of that has to do with, like, you know, honestly, like, me sort of maturing and coming into my role as, like, the, you know, big brother, like, eldest son, whatever you want to call it, especially since my dad died when I was 17. That was, like, pretty fucking traumatic for us. My mom's not all there mentally. She's kind of volatile and tends to get a little bit, like, abusive, to put it in plain terms. So, like, something happened to me in my early 20s, like mid 20s, where I realized that, like, I could put myself and my preferences and my feelings aside for these people, for my siblings specifically, like, that I could prioritize our family and them and their well-being and our relationship over, like, whatever my ego, like, was telling me that I needed at a given time or wanted at a given time. And I think that that's helped quite a bit, because I think a lot of what, like, got in between us as kids is that I was very, like, interested in myself and making sure that I had what I wanted, and, like, you know, I needed to control them and control situations that all of us were in, because, like, it made me feel better for whatever reason. But that's certainly not the case anymore. And they're also great with my son, which is really nice. I'm kind of like the most, like, normcore of all of us. My immediately younger sister is 31, I think, and she's, like, single, which is fine. Like, just, like, I guess it is more typical for a millennial, but she's single. She's, like, you know, been in and out of school and kind of had this, like, nomadic sort of life for the last, like, 10 years probably. And she doesn't not have her shit together, but she's, like, just constantly building towards finally being in a place where she feels, like, happy, secure, and, like, she has everything that she needs. And I know she's not quite there yet. So, like, having kids and, like, starting a family is not necessarily something, and owning a house and, like, getting married is not something that, like, I think anyone sees in her immediate future, probably including her. The sister after her is, like, she's, like, 28, I think. I'm very bad at, like, mental math and numbers and shit. The next youngest sister is 28. She has a boyfriend, but did not graduate from college. Neither did I. I'm not, like, saying that that's a reflection on the state of her life, but because she didn't graduate from college, she's never really, like, been able to find a, like, career thread that she, like, liked or tolerated enough, I guess, to stick with and build on and get herself into a position where, like, she has more than she does. My family is not very financially literate. I wasn't until fairly recently. Shout out to Caleb Hammer, actually, for that. And, like, it's just by sheer luck that I haven't found myself in, like, a worse financial situation than I'm in. And a lot of that has to do with getting married and, like, my wife being a lot more financially well-endowed than I am. But a lot of it also has to do with just fucking luck and, like, a fucking iota of responsibility that I somehow have inside of me. Anyway, yeah, kids aren't in the near future for that sister either, probably, although they're in a nearer future because she's had the same boyfriend for, like, 5 years at this point, and everyone loves him. Oh my god, if those two break up, I'm gonna have to stay friends with the guy. He's like one of my favorite people to spend time with. I fucking love this guy. Anyway, so we're like a little more normie core than them. I don't know that buying a house is in their like immediate future at all. They do kind of seem to just constantly be flying on the seat of their pants, and I'm very glad like that she's like happy and that she's relatively stable, but like definitely not Kit having stable. There's no judgment here, Ella. If you're watching this, I respect and admire you for a million different things. I'm just kind of talking about who's the biggest normie here. You're probably a bigger normie than Fina is. And then we have my brother, who is 10 years younger than me, making him 23 years old. And I guess he's more of a typical 23-year-old, and there's a decent shot that he may wind up being as much of a normie as I am by 33. It's kind of hard to tell right now. But he is an actor, and he did go to acting school. So that kind of like sets him in this weird sort of like social channel that I don't know much about. Maybe he completely fails at being an actor and winds up like getting some kind of job that he turns into a career and meets some fucking like lady and has kids with her. That could happen. Or maybe he does make it as an actor, gets a lot of money, is stable, happy, whatever, same thing, kids, family, normie by 33. But both of those things seem less likely than him like kind of making it enough for a long time, but never quite getting to a place. Like that's what happens with all actors, right? I'm not saying I don't like believe in my brother or trust his talent. I just know that it's an incredibly difficult thing to make an actual career out of. So it's hard for me now to be like, okay, he's 23. Where does he fall on like the normie scale when he hits his 30s? So with all of that in mind, I am the normie brother. And it's funny because like you probably wouldn't have thought it looking at me 10 years ago or like knowing my past or like me as a person. But yeah, here I am, 33, homeowner, kind of. The bank owns the fucking house. Child, it's wife, like beautiful house that the bank owns. But like still, we got a great fucking rate on it. Yeah. I'm the normie brother, and I'm the one who, like, I guess, tries to keep and bring people together and provide a space for my siblings, and I'm happy to do that. Looking forward to Thanksgiving, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow.